Committee on,
Transportation Infrastructure Committee for the South.
great job, very impressive. Local boy done well. So, you certainly had their attention, so do you want to?
Thank you. Sure. Yeah. So, yeah, just a little background. So I've been invited by Senator Kramer because he's the ranking member on the Republican side for that committee, and to talk about the IIJA, which is the Infrastructure and Jobs Act that was passed this time last year, and it's the $1 trillion infrastructure, 5-year infrastructure bill, and so highlighted some of the applications that we've worked on, some of the funding, especially there was 437 million. And also highlighted some of the challenges, especially for smaller rural counties, because in most cases, the grant processes are pretty challenging administratively to get through. And if you're a smaller county with just a road superintendent that's focused on keeping the roads open and running it, your opportunities to dig into a grant opportunity and fill out paperwork. So yeah, it was a great opportunity to speak and present the challenges, and especially the infrastructure challenges. I really laid out the North Dakota Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute's study that they've done on all the needs for county roads around statewide, which is, I think it's like $450 billion in the next 20 years. So no small feat to get a lot of work done here. But if we don't start working on utilizing this grant funding through the IIJA bill, if we're letting money sit there, that's on the table. So I think that's another piece. So that's something that Tom and Kyle and I will continue to dig into to identify where we have opportunities to access this funding. We would have worked with 3 counties on the Minnesota side. So the Georgetown Bridge is one. There's 3 bridges over the Red River that I highlighted that we've submitted an application for funding. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, with that, I will call to order the November 21st, 2022 Road Advisory Committee meeting to order. And maybe we just go around briefly because there's a couple new people here, and just introduce who you are and who you're representing.
I'm Tracy Peters. I'm the Human Resource Director and Assistant County Administrator.
I'm Bill Hale. I live near Castleton. I'm the chair of the Rush River Water Board.
Robert Wilson, Cass County Administrator.
Keith Munson, live by Weston Harwood, just a Cass County resident.
Scott Sayward, I represent the Township Officers Association.
Carla Jean, Assistant County Engineer.
Sterling, County Commissioner.
Jody Miller, HR Assistant.
Taylor Kausagan, the Commission Assistant.
Tom Susi, the Deputy County Engineer.
Jim Capitan, County Commissioner.
And Jason Benson, County Engineer.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Welcome, everyone, for coming out today. You have an agenda in front of you. Are there any changes to that agenda, or is there a motion to approve? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And you have had an opportunity to review the minutes of the previous meeting of July 18th. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Or a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, then let's move on to the update for the 2022 and 23 construction projects.
All right, I'll take that. So, Calvin, if you can go to the next slide. And one more here. Right. And, yeah, we'll have it up on the screen, but I know at the same time it can be a little challenging sometimes to see that. So you can go ahead and flip along with the PowerPoint presentation. So with our 2022 construction projects, we have finished virtually all of them. We've got one that's still getting wrapped up. And that's the bridge removal down just south of Fargo along Gas 81. And that's a combined project with buyout. And so, yeah, Tom, did those, yeah, we'll have a few pictures in there, yeah. But, you know, we had a couple major projects, especially the Gas 15 bridge south of I-94. So that was opened up early in the fall. And, but the project to talk about is Gas 9. And that's where we, regionally, there's been a huge challenge to get cement. And that was a big portion of that project was doing the cement treated subgrade. We were able to get about half of that project complete with the cement into the subgrade. They were having to haul truckloads of cement all the way from Duluth. So it was definitely a challenge. But we're ready for paving on that section next year. And then next spring, we'll have to finish the gravel road portion of that project, putting the cement into the subgrade. It's nationwide, there's been some challenges with some resourcing cement, but definitely regionally, we've seen a lot of issues with that. So we're hopeful that with our bidding that we do for next year's projects, that we can get ahead on getting access into cement, so we don't run into the same challenges that we had this year. I guess anyone has any questions, or Tom, you had any comments?
Also, as far as for next year's construction, that basically kind of triggered us to order box culverts early, and we're gonna bid our construction of those projects out here in December for 2 projects for next year too, I guess.
Correct, yes, yeah, thanks, Tom. So when if you go to the next slide, the 2023 proposed construction. So, you know, the big yellow stripe down the center on County Road 9. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, so we had, if you want to go back, Catlin, to the, yeah, so this is the, down by 88th Avenue and Cass 81. This is the Hofer buyout house, and then the bridge that would really only access that house. This picture we added a little bit later just to show, but that contract they should be complete in about the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so that the bridge has been removed, and they've placed some temporary culverts to cross over the river, and then they're hauling out. They've already demolished the house, and they're hauling out concrete and other building materials from the house buyout. So it was a good project in that we combined all of that into one bid to demo both the house and the bridge. So that'll be a huge benefit. That bridge was holding back a significant amount of logs and debris too. So, yeah, Robert.
Will those culverts be pulled out in the spring then?
Yeah, they'll actually be pulled out in the next couple of weeks once they're done. Yes, yeah.
House out and just back their way out and clean up the site as they back out, basically, yeah. That's kind of the end thing to do.
But as dry as the fall as it has been, they've had basically perfect conditions to be able to do that. So,
That loop all concrete,
yes.
that all comes out, gonna save the concrete and crush it for anything?
I'm gonna go there.
Well, the contractor gets it, okay.
Fly it back later. From them, yeah.
He
It's
trips
not
to Duluth, is that?
farmable, is it?
Yeah.
No, that there's kind of a peninsula to the north of that loop, and it's wooded. They have some horse pasture, and so they still own the land to the south with the horse pasture, and I envision they may request to be able to lease that property as a flood buyout lease from us, just to have their horses. graze there or something, so. All right, next slide. Yeah, so with, oh yeah. Yeah, so, when Tom mentioned that for 2022 here, we had one other project that got added, and that was that in that same location, by off of 81 and 88th Avenue, we had a slide area, and that project was completed, and we bid that out. It went back and forth as far as how much it was gonna cost. We ended up getting a much cheaper option and a lower bid, so, that was like a $350,000 fix. And we had looked at options between 700,000 and 2 million. So that was great work to get done, and nice to have that project wrapped up and complete.
I've driven by there a couple of times, and, it's just been regraded and sloped, and now there's guardrails up, and it just is so much safer looking. Before it looked really scary.
Right, because it was about a 15-foot drop where it was slumping into the river. So this is a big safety improvement, and it also in safety for preventing our road from slumping further and damaging the water and sanitary sewer lines that are done. So yeah, 2023, the big yellow stripe down County Road 9 between Mapleton and Castleton. That's the carryover from the work that we weren't able to get completed this year because of the cement shortage. So, we completed $1.8 million in 2022. So we'll carry over, the 2.4 million that we didn't spend in this year's budget. We'll just carry that over to next year's budget, and we'll expend it. So there's no change in bid prices or anything like that. That contract is, it's just the timeline has shifted on it. So that's one positive thing, at least, again, because they're having some additional costs just in the fact that they're trucking loads of cement all the way from Duluth. Our other big projects, County Road 16, which is the subgrade repair, and we're working right now on the design for that, working with the Water Resource District to make sure that, because there are some floodplain issues and illegal drains, so that'll look, that's going to be a really good project to get done. And then our other two subgrade repair projects, the one up the 1.5 miles at Erie Dam at our Brewer Lake, the access road going into the county park. And then up by Gardner, that subgrade repair on Cass 34. And right now we've got it templated from I-29 over to County Road 11. And depending on how the bidding goes in this year, that'll kind of depend on how much we can do with that. So that's kind of our.
Or those repairs, or is there any improvement?
It is quite an improvement. We call it a subgrade repair, but we strip the gravel off, regrade the ditches and shoulders, and then put cement into the top 12 inches of the clay subgrade, and then put new gravel on top. So it really, it becomes as strong as a paved road. It's just with a gravel surface. So it's a huge improvement.
Hank is still talking to me about this. So.
Yeah, and in fact, in the past, when we've done our pavement testing every 5 years, we've had the pavement testers do some testing on some of these cement-treated subgrade gravel roads, and they're super strong. I mean, 10-ton roads, so again, equivalent to our best paved roads for strength. So it's just the surface. And which is also important because we don't have a gravel pit in Cass County, so it saves what one load. And Kyle, I can remember you helped me calculate the numbers on in a mile how many loads of cement it takes versus how many loads of gravel. It was like 12 loads of cement compared to like Right, right. So it's substantial amount of, fewer materials that have to get hauled on.
If I may, as a resident, Cass County 32 had pretty much that treatment done to it, and it's night and day. It had frost boils, it gets soft to the spring, couldn't haul much of anything on it. Now it's a usable road, just night and day difference.
Then the last set of projects I want to talk about is down in the northern part of Horace by on County Road 17 and 52nd Avenue and 64th Avenue. So at 52nd Avenue, we're going to be working on a portion of the roundabout to add additional legs to that roundabout at 52nd, and then rebuild the bridge on 52nd Avenue over the Cheyenne River, and then widen the 52nd Avenue all the way over to Deer Creek, which is to the east. And that project is being completed through the city of Fargo. That was bid out last Friday. It did come in higher than what they expected, but locally, I know when I brought it forward about a month ago to the county commission to approve an agreement between Fargo and West Fargo on cost share, and what we had budgeted, I think, was about $4 to $4.5 million, and then we ended up getting additional federal funding, so we thought our cost share was going to be in that $2.4 million. So I think they're going to plan on awarding, and it's not going to get cheaper. So I think it's the smart thing to do. But instead of the $2.4 million over the next 2 years, it may bump up a little bit more to closer to $3 million. But we've got it in the budget because we originally had closer to $4 million in the budget. So
Yeah, there's through MetroCog, there's going to be a bike lane there too, isn't there?
there will be on both sides of that, connecting into the other bike. Okay, yeah, and there's also some bike paths along County Road 17 that we've applied for with the city of Horace. So
I think that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
we're continuing to work that, and then south of 52nd Avenue, between 52nd and 64th, we're putting in a new bridge, and we've already bid out the box culverts for that. And Tom mentioned a little bit ago that because of the cement shortage and some of the challenges in the box culvert world, where the two main companies in the region that build those have really gotten behind schedule. So we bid out all of our box culvert projects. Typically in the winter, we would bid out the project as one big, both the box culvert itself and the installation construction work all in one bid. This year, because we knew if we didn't get things bid out early, we might not get those box culverts. So we bid out just the box culvert product itself in July and August. And so all of those are on order. And now this winter, we'll do the bid for the installation of the box culverts. If we went to have done that back in July and August, we probably would be looking at getting these projects done in 2024, because as it is, the box culverts that we bid out in July, it was a year lead time. They said that we can expect to get them sometime midsummer next year. So.
Yes, Tom.
Just to add to that, Kyle was looking at quotes for box culvert going into the crushing plant, soybean crushing plant, and a box culvert of that size was like 300, triple the price right now. So and we only got one guy to bid on it too. The other guy said, we're so backed up, there's no way we can get it to you guys by August 1st. So then the option is you got to put maybe 4 metal arch pipe, or you build the box culvert concrete in place. You actually got to bring the rebar and concrete in and build it that way. It takes longer. So, yeah.
Yeah. So thankfully,
We did bid.
yeah, Tom and Kyle brought that in early July. That hey, we need to get ahead of this, and And so because of that, we're gonna be able to get a lot more work done. And even at the Association of Counties Conference in October, when we were talking to different county engineers and road superintendents around the state, and we mentioned that we had done that, they're like, oh, we should have done that. You could tell the look on their face.
Just pure curiosity on those concrete box culverts. I'm sure there's, a limited number of folks that do that, and they have forms, and you pour the concrete in, and it's got to set up. What's a curing time for something like that? Because I'm sure the strength, of that has to be as hard and as strong as any concrete structure you pour. What kind of curing time for something like that?
A lot of them as early as less than a week coming off the forms. They've
Really? Okay.
strong enough to make the trip and get installed, but it's yeah, we'd leave. Yeah,
See, that's why I'm
they're
not
still
an
pretty
engineer.
green, but there's
I was gonna say they gotta be awfully green coming off of a week.
right. Yeah,
But all the concrete places do
Normal
that.
concrete takes 28 days.
Yeah.
we broke cylinders on concrete or bridge projects, and even after 3 days, you'll get 70% of your design life in 3 days. So, but just you get after that, it's the longer cure period that takes till you get to the full 28 days. So.
Problem with our weather is that the companies that are building these, even if they're building them inside, they only have so much storage space, so then they're moving outside. Well, if they're in that, 7 days, they've got the strength, but they're still not cured out. So you wouldn't really want to have them just completely frozen.
And I would bet on any project that you typically would get 2 more weeks of curing before even construction equipment would drive across it. Yeah, it's gotta wait a while to get put in there, and
But so fortunately, we're moving ahead with that. And then we also have the roundabout project at 64th Avenue and County Road 17 in Horace. Kyle's working on those sets of plans right now, and we're going to have the County Road 17 work, both the bridge and the roundabout bid out by the end of December. So we'll bring that for the county commission to approve in early January. We are working with Horace on some, what some of the detour is, and that's probably one of the challenging things still. And fortunately, with opening up 76th Avenue over to 45th Street up into Fargo, that will provide a great paved access for a lot of people that live in that 76th Avenue or south in Horace to be able to access without having to go on the gravel road networks that really aren't designed to take that level of traffic. Because one of the challenges with the Horace is it's not just all the residential traffic, because it's growing so much now. It's all the trucks that are coming into Horace to pour foundations and drop off building supplies and materials for all the houses going up there. So if you haven't driven through Horace in the last year, it's changing, and by this time next year, it'll change that much more.
Tom and Jason gave me a tour the other day of several projects, and it's pretty interesting, and particularly the diversion, but no, Tom, you weren't there. It was
Matt,
But really interesting to see the development south of Fargo, and that 64th Avenue Bridge. I mean, it's going over the interstate now and open, and it just
Yeah,
homes I didn't even.
I live right down on 45th Street or on 44th Avenue. And one day I drive by and they're just working on the extension of 45th. The next day I drive by, it's completed all the way. I don't know how far it's completed, but there's
That
cars
will
driving down there now.
That will certainly help some of that traffic get to the schools, I think. So, okay, well, it's 2:30, so you get 30 minutes.
Thank you. The next portion that we want to cover is our 5-year plan. So Calvin, if you can go to the next slide. So we do have, Tom handed out the There's two components to our plan. There's first the main written portion, and then there's the actual maps themselves. And in the presentation, we have the road and bridge maps. And then this is an action item to approve our plan. First, when it comes to the main written document itself, I'd highlight just a few things that have changed in that. It's been nice having Vision Zero coordinator Leah on board, and she, besides all the different public meetings or in public events that she does, she was able to update our, so on page 7, we have an updated severe crash data list. So 2017 to 2021. And, a lot of that still focuses on the fact that the vast majority of our crashes, and this still is statewide, while the paved road network statewide on county roads is, I think it's about 7 to 8% of all of the roads, county roads are paved, but about 50% of the crashes happen on those roads. So that kind of helps to emphasize some of the safety things that we've done, and that also ties into one of the maps, or a couple of the maps at the back of the map book that shows some of the crash data. So outside of that, we have updated a few things. The construction cost index on page 9. We've got our data that goes back to 2001, and it's definitely, you can see in the blue dots and blue line as things ramped up in the early 2010s, 2011 to 2014. Construction costs really jumped kind of through the roof as the oil boom was happening out west. Then the downturn in the oil markets that across the state had a downturn in construction costs, but now we've bumped back up again. So on average, about 9% is what the annual increase in construction costs has been over the last 20 years. And and at the same time, if you flip to the next page, when we look at our highway distribution funds, that definitely has not kept up with the 9% cost increase. It's
Our roads, our SC funds are about $1 million a year now, and they should be about $2 million if we'd have kept pace with the construction cost index. So it's our amount of our budget, that's federal funds, each year gets smaller.
even our state gas tax and highway distribution that's only gone up about 3% annually. Compared to construction costs going up 9%. So really, I know internally we've talked about how fortunate we are that we've got a growing county, and that because what has gone up is the valuation of a mill. And so having our 10 mills, what 10 mills was worth 20 years ago versus 10 years ago versus today, that's what that increase in mill levy valuation is what allows us to do more and get more bridge work done and road work done.
So how will the prairie dog funding impact all this?
So with the prairie dog money, we are expecting that, because last session we didn't get anything out of that because of the downturn in oil. That county road bucket is getting filled with right now. Anticipate sometime in February, March is when that should be filled, and then we will get that funding. Once it's filled, it sounds like within a month or so we'll get the funding. That's about just over $6 million. I think it's 6.3, And so we should, sometime in that March, April timeframe, have that. But that's for the whole biennium. So we do have a larger construction year this year, but we do plan on holding some of that money to expend in 2024. Outside of that, a lot of the other charts that are in this, we've updated to add, 2027 into it and adjust some different, and we've updated some of the other information in this.
Out that we're doing some work out at the highway department as far as the actual building itself. And I see that you've referenced that in here, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's one thing that, thankfully, the county commission has been proactive in having some building funds set aside. So we're not having to fund that remodel with highway department funding. It's coming out of that building fund. So very thankful for that. Right, yes, yeah. But we do list, our county facilities and what we anticipate for different remodelings. That way we keep that in our mind besides just roads and bridges. So with that, as far as the maps, the first two maps have really the bulk of the information because the first map has 5 roads, and the second map is our 5 bridge plans. The roads are, for next year, the roads are what we've already talked about for, but we have moved, a few things around based on when we anticipate some federal funding. So especially like 2025, where you see a lot of the yellow, which is paving up between Gardner all the way out to the Barnes County line by Page, federal aid paving project. So a lot of this was taking what was in last year's plan and just updating and adding in what we anticipate now for 2027. Then on the second one, we've got the second page is all of the bridges we anticipate constructing in the next 5 years. And
So we had a surprise with a bridge this year that really inconvenienced people, I would imagine. I don't drive a truck over that road very often, but I certainly heard about it. So are we pretty confident that we're staying ahead of the game here with these other bridges?
I would say yes, but unfortunately, we just got another list about a week ago of, I think it's about 7 new bridges that are load restricted, and a few of those are also on county roads. Two of them are on county roads that are locations where the project is going to, where the diversion project will eliminate the need for those bridges. One is up north of Harwood on Cass 31, and that's a bridge that we did some repairs on about 8-10 years ago. And once the diversion's in, it's going to have a very small watershed, so it'll be able to replace the bridge with a smaller, just regular metal culvert. And then the other is not too far from Keith's Place on Cass 22, east of Prosper, and that'll be load restricted down to 30 tons. We're working tomorrow. I've got a meeting with the P3 team, and we anticipate right now that that bridge will be getting ripped out anyway as part of the diversion project sometime early next spring and summer, because they have to build the bridge up and over the diversion channel itself in that same location. So they'll be building a bypass road and a new crossing, kind of temporary crossing over the lower Rush at that same location. So but it's definitely gonna add for some challenges. One of the other bridges that we just got an additional load restriction on is down in the southwest corner by Alice. So we already had that scheduled to be replaced in 2020. I think initially we had it for 2025. Now we've moved it up to 2024, and we're working to get federal funding for that as well. So that will, currently it was unrestricted. I've, legal loads over it, so now that'll have I believe that's also around a 30-ton load limit. So that'll add some challenges for the next 2 years. But, we, in the last 2 years, as the DOT gave up doing the bridge inspections and analysis, and those consultant engineering firms have taken that over, those consultant firms are now using the new bridge formula data and calculations to calculate the load restriction and the load limits on these bridges, and that's where we've had challenges. And while we feel like we're dealing with some issues with this, our counties north and south of us they're feeling it a lot worse than we are. I know Richland County has probably had 2 to 3 times the bridges come down with, and when they've come down with some of the load restrictions, in some cases they've pretty much had to close them, or they're only open for cars and pickups.
Maintenance things that, or anything, just, and I suppose just also schedule wise, so that people aren't caught off guard. I mean, this year that was, pretty tough. All of a sudden, it's August and people are having to go way out of their way.
The challenge is it's a balance, because when a bridge, in the past, when we've looked at it and it's in relatively decent condition based on the current ratings, so it's hard to move that up and have that as a total reconstruction or rebuild a bridge. But then when these new calculations, and we're just getting that first round of inspections over the last 2 years, that's why this is happening. Over the next couple of years, we're not going to have this type of thing happen again, because everything will have been analyzed on this new rating system. It's from the federal highway, and it's basically, they use it's the LRFD load rating, right? Yes, and so it's really high-zoot engineering stuff that from the structural analysis, there was the old standard for when these bridges were built versus newer bridges have been using this standard for probably the last 20 years. But how the bridges were getting rated was based on the old standard. Now they're rating all the bridges based on the new standard. And so that's where some of these old bridges.
The new standard is the new standard, and that's right, even though it might be totally bogus.
I wouldn't say not bogus. It's just looking at it in a different way, and it's some of these old. It's not any newer bridges that we're having problems with. It's these bridges that were built in the 30s, 40s, 50s that we've had the issues with.
In your professional opinion, are any of these bridges that have been now condemned, are they going to blow to pieces if we keep driving across them?
No, and that's
So what's the point in all this?
right. One of the challenges is that the way bridges are analyzed, and then the load restriction. It's not if it's load restricted down to 20 tons. If you drove over it with 20, 30, or 40 tons, you're not going to break the bridge. It's the fact that based on the design of that bridge and its structural capacity, that going over that 20 tons consistently is going to continue to deteriorate, and you're putting that bridge at risk. So that's where, unfortunately,
One on 22, nearer to me now, this new one that you're saying is going to go to 30 tons, that's going to be ripped out in a year. anyway. So now we can't go that way anywhere loaded anymore
And
either.
the challenge is we've got a very short window to get signs up and have those, because it's on the federal aid system. We have to submit pictures to the North Dakota DOT showing that we've load restricted it. And for me personally, even if I feel that, yes, could we continue to drive legal loads at 80,000 pounds over it, or 105, 5 based on your axle loading. If I think we could still do that, but we still have to follow the regulations. And so, especially if we want federal aid funding.
Making it very difficult.
Well, but I can tell you again,
Township roads.
right,
County ones.
Bill?
Is it safe to assume that these new ways of calculating the strength of a bridge are a result of the bridge collapse in Minneapolis? Is this the federal reaction to, we better have a tighter look at how bridges are degrading?
I think it's more just different vehicle types.
Different vehicles, okay.
Yeah, different vehicle types, different axle loadings of different vehicle types. And that's what the new system has kind of brought on. Newer style vehicle types, like a super, call it a super dump, I guess.
Oh, like you see what Northern Improvement's been driving around with, they got like an end dump truck that's got nothing but axles underneath them. That's more of a point load kind of thing. If a semi goes over most of our bridges, the tractor goes over it, that's all you're gonna get on there, and then the trailer later. But the DOT looks at it as a basically somehow all could be on there, but it doesn't. But it's more of those, like what Kyle was saying, those kind of loads that you don't know when they're gonna come across. It's those guys that, yeah.
Would be regulated
Those
depending
guys.
on the type of
Yeah.
truck?
Absolutely.
If you're taking,
Like if you drive in Minnesota, they have that sign that says, if your truck looks like this.
Yeah.
You have to get this way. If
Right.
your truck looks like this, you have to get this way. Trying that.
The North Dakota DOT and the North Dakota state law doesn't authorize us to do that. So
Here's the way to go.
so that sounds like something we maybe need to work on, huh?
Yes.
Well, we have a brand new legislature and coming in session here, so in fact, I think they're coming over for coffee in a week or two, so we can
Senator
visit
Weber is
about
very
that.
interested in that stuff.
Yeah, he is. I visited with him, so that would be great. Let's make a note of that.
That's all we have to do is put some signs up.
Yeah.
Sign would be a lot
We want you
cheaper.
guys to drive over bridges.
That's right. And with these two that are impacted by the diversion, if we were getting these next year at this time, we'd be saying no big deal because the diversion is already taken care of the problem. But unfortunately, this issue happened about 6 months too soon.
Well, anything else on the 5-year capital improvement?
Everything else, the rest of the maps have just been updated. There's no new maps that we've added. So again,
That has changed slightly with their new load rating system. Instead of the sufficiency number, 0 to 100 that there normally is, it's just good, fair, poor. So that has changed slightly from the old bridge maps that are in the past.
A health index now, but it used to be the sufficiency, but that, it's not an apples to apples comparison either, so.
Good, fair, poor.
Yeah, it basically go off of those three.
Good, fair, poor, and then it has the restrictions on top.
then we did this last summer. We did our pavement testing, but we haven't received all the results. So these maps don't. When it comes to the pavement condition maps, it doesn't have that new data. Next year's maps will have that data because we'll get that over the winter.
Or would be updated then, the new testing.
And the last couple pages, maps that talk about our construction project history, we updated that through 2021 now. So you can see the last 21 years worth of construction projects.
That'll work.
We're at about 112 million now since 2000 projects.
And then you've got the page on the 65-mile-an-hour county highways. We heard somewhere,
At the planning commission meeting, there was a couple of Warren Township officers that they farm along County Road 15, south of I-94, and they had brought up that they thought it was too fast. I think for County Road 15, that was the first negative comments I've heard about that. Everything else I've heard has been very positive about it.
Would anybody complain about it?
you drive around Cass County and then you go over to Becker County or something, it's just such a contrast. I mean, if you're keeping your eye on the road, you should be able to go 65 miles an hour.
I think the way the roads are designed with the right of way and the sight distance, it's pretty natural to, if you just don't even pay attention to your speedometer and just get up to a comfortable driving speed, you're easily in that 60 to 65 miles an hour. So that's where I think
the biggest danger and it is just driving along and not paying attention.
Or coming up on a tractor.
we do. The one road that we had talked about when we made this change that we didn't approve was County Road 11 north of Mapleton. And so that is one that, I haven't heard a lot of feedback from folks up in that area of, that they're really glad that, it never went to 65. I think that's something that could get revisited to bring that up to 65 from north of Mapleton all the way up to County Road 4.
I have heard comments requesting, how come we can't go 65?
I think it would make sense because it's,
Yep.
I think that's something we should continue to work on.
It's something that we can work on over this winter and
Well, anything else on this, Jason, that we should be aware of?
well, other than that, it's just, it was basically just taking and adding in our 2027 items, so.
Oh, and it is interesting, you do have the crashes on the map of the crashes. It's kind of,
And one thing with that crash data, when you look at, the 2006 to 2012 timeframe, there's definitely a higher number. It's more in that 70 to 80 crashes per year versus right now, since 2012 timeframe, the crashes have gone down to more in that 60 per year. So we've reduced them by about 20 a year, and around 2010, 2011 is when we started doing a lot of our rumble strip projects. And since then, we've got pretty much every paved road has rumble strips. And then we've also done a lot of improved signing at intersections and some of the other intersection safety. So I think the numbers show that the safety projects that we've done have had an improvement in reducing, somewhere in that 20% of all the total crashes.
I think this is excellent. Does anybody have any questions? Bill?
Would there be some value in having a representative of the sheriff's department here like once a year to address those same crash sites? Get their perspective on it as well as the engineers.
Also, we could talk about the speed limit a little too, because, we don't want to put a deputy in any kind of situation where they're standing on a shoulder and somebody's going too fast. So, I'm sure that the sheriff would be happy to be here. So,
With that, we do have a recommended motion, but
2020 and 17, that tree grove that's on the northwest corner of that intersection, is anything gonna happen to that? And on the planning commission too, and we've denied building there. It's a hindrance to vision at that intersection.
Right away, right? It's off our right away, all those trees, but yeah.
It is, but it's.
Be nice if they weren't there, definitely. Yep. Right.
We purchased right away?
We have acquired additional right away in that, so right now it would be challenging because of the issues we've had with that landowner wanting to build. And
Hauling dirt in there again this fall after he was told he can't build, he's kept bringing dirt in.
right,
Would that enter into any of the planning that we've been talking about, Jason, with our long-range planning with the county?
yes,
Getting together with we're talking about getting together with some townships and the county planning department and schools and making sure that you're not putting a school in the wrong spot and that kind of thing, making sure that traffic flows safely. So
that is one intersection that we've got, kind of, it's not in our plan right now, but because this plan going out to 2027 is about when that diversion project should be complete. So next year when we bring, 2028, there will be some new projects that we'll start looking at, going out to 2028, 2029, and 2030 that either some bridge projects that were the bridges can be a lot smaller because they're inside the diversion protected area, or road projects where currently the road's over top, and so that intersection of Cass 20 and Cass 17 has been a challenging intersection, but because water currently flows over the intersection, it's been one that, doing something like a safety improvement by putting a roundabout in there would be challenging. But in 2027, 2028, 2029, that all of a sudden opens up a lot of options.
anyone else got any questions or comments? Bill?
Motion, don't you?
Yes, we need a motion to recommend approval for this. Is
For the,
Making motions.
I
I'll make the motion.
thank you. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Excellent plan. Anything else you'd like to say, Jason?
So just for everybody's information on the process, so once it gets approved here, next month we'll bring it to the county commission for full approval, and then we'll post it on our website. So if you have someone that calls and is wondering about a project, you can have them go to our highway department portion of our county website, and it'll be on there for them to see, which I think has helped out a lot for, especially the rural residents around the county that are wondering when a bridge or road project is going to happen.
Well, with that then, do we need a roll call on this or just a? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. And gentlemen, we will bring this up to the legislature regarding the load restrictions, and I think having a sheriff or somebody from that department here for a future meeting would be very appropriate. So good discussion. Moving on next to the Castleton soybean crushing facility.
Thank you, Commissioner, and we'll keep this relatively short so we can get everybody out of here on time. So Cass, or 36th Street, which is the east-west road east of Cass 23 and south of the ethanol plant, we have officially taken that over as Cass County 30 from Everest Township. And in the last 6 months, we've worked with the township and the NDSP, the soybean company. They actually did some really good work with Everest Township to keep them happy and do some improvements on their north-south township road so that they could, while construction was happening on 36th Street and now Cass 30, when that construction was happening, the NDSP still had to be using other township roads to haul in materials to start site preparation. So the mile from the first mile going east of Cass 23 has been completed. Next summer, we will do some work going to the east of that intersection and building the new access into to the plant site itself. And then outside of that, the NDSP is just going to continue building on their facility. Most of the really heavy loads are going to come in next summer. And then in the summer of 2024, that's when they really see kind of doing the wrap up on construction and then starting operation later in the summer of 2024. So for us, the big dollar cost for that project is going to be in spring of 2024 when we do the concrete paving from CAS 23 all the way over to the soybean plant. And we have been working with the Water Resource District and NDSP on an agreement. We'll be bringing that to the county commission in the next, I think actually the next meeting. And so, and that, again, as we've talked over the last year, we'll cap that at $3 million for the county's cost for that. And then anything above and that, beyond that, the NDSP will have to pick up the cost. And then the North Dakota DOT will provide us up to $1.5 million in federal funding, or 50%. So if our share is $3 million, we'll pay that out of our local funding, but then they'll reimburse us $1.5 million in federal funding for future federal aid projects. So the most that we'll spend really is $1.5 million on any work to get this concrete road put in for.
Is this going to solve the problem?
Yes. I think everybody's going to be happy with this road. The challenge.
Backing up is what, I mean, if you've been out there, it's, people are parking on the highway.
So the way NDSP, they have a lot better plan for managing truck traffic going in and out of their facility and having some on-site storage for trucks to park. But having this new concrete road, I think
What about the other activities that are springing up around there now? I mean, you've got other thing, Grand Farm on the other side, and ethanol, and I mean, it's kind of a hot spot.
One of the big pushes that there's been is because of the overpass bridge over I-94 is really narrow. It's just 24 feet wide. So there's been a big push to see if the DOT could get that bridge improved. What I've heard, and it's unofficial because they're still looking at which year to do the construction and how much they're going to do improvements on that intersection or interchange, but 2024 or potentially 2025, they're looking to reconstruct that bridge.
If I may, if that intersection is not ready to go, when they start taking in loads of soybeans, everybody who's leaving the plant and wants to cross over that intersection you can see on the map in front of you won't do it. They'll take Old 10 down to where Gordy's is right now, and Gordy's is already a way backed up, busy four-way or two-way stop. That's going to cause a real traffic problem, especially during sugar beet harvest. And you can have sugar beet, soybean, and corn harvest all happening at the same time. That overpass has to be ready for two-way truck traffic, and it's not right now.
Right, and so we've pushed, and we're hoping that it's going to be 2024. But the DOT director, when I spoke to him about 3 weeks ago, he said it's not really because they haven't gone through the detailed design to see how much. Because if it's an easier fix to widen that bridge, then it might be something that they can get done in a shorter time frame in 2024, or it may end up being a lot longer.
I would take that all the way to the governor, because the state of North Dakota already delayed the soybean plant taking in soybeans by 1 year because 3 people retired out of the Department of Health and they couldn't get their air quality permit, so they couldn't move dirt. Now we're not going to have an overpass that can't handle two-way traffic.
Rush River's doing something down there too with culvert or something, aren't you? No.
Maple River.
Maple River,
We're
excuse
working
me.
with them, yeah. Because on the north side of 36th Street or CAS 30 is a legal drain, so we've been working with them. You have to cross the legal drain. No,
Outside?
On the
That's
south side of that road, yes. But the Wheatland Channel is south of the interstate. We're talking a mile north of the interstate, right? Yeah. But that's.
But this, but
The state of North Dakota's already embarrassed themselves by delaying a $400 million project by 1 year because 3 people retired. And if we
Let's keep that on our agenda for next time so it doesn't fall off our radar.
that cost-
I know just in the last 3 months, from when I talked to the DOT director when he was still the acting DOT director back in August, and it was kind of like, well, we've got a lot of narrow bridges and a lot of interchanges that have,
Have any place like this in the state of North Dakota.
and then again 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden it was, hey, we've got this. It just because they haven't done any public announcement on it, because they still don't know exactly. And that's where from my perspective, I'm giving the information, but obviously it's definitely wouldn't pin 2024 or 2025. But our hope is that it's 2024. But and I'll continue to.
Need us to talk in, Buddy, sometimes.
Bring that coffee with legislators.
No, we can do that. It's shocking to me sometimes how people don't think Cass County is in the state of North Dakota. Go to Bismarck.
But at the same time, they do look at things. This is about 2 feet narrower than the bridge at Cass 20, which is north of the airport where the Amazon facility is, and that has a significant truck traffic load. So
I didn't know this until this plant came up. I'll take you out there sometime, just with a pickup truck, and sit on that overpass and think about being in a 80,000 pound truck. There's no way in hell you want to meet another 80,000 pound truck there. It's too narrow. And I know they may be doing it over there at Amazon, but boy, to repeat that, trucks per day on that overpass after the soybean plant gets going. 400 a day. When you got all 3 of those harvests going on. I'm sorry.
Oh, I appreciate that's why you're on this committee. So I appreciate all of you being here. And any other business?
sure, from my standpoint, I don't have anything else. If any of the other members.
Anyone else? Scott, we haven't heard from you
Questions?
much.
Well, I guess we have a big meeting tomorrow night about a bridge on State Highway 18. I don't know if there's anything to talk about here.
I could provide a quick update on that. So, yeah, thanks. So the bridge over the Maple River south of Castleton on State 18, the DOT is looking at reconstructing that in 2024. And it's about $1.5 million is what they've calculated to build a bypass road if you're to drop down and build this road across the river just parallel to the bridge. So the DOT has asked if they could use county roads as the bypass or detour route, and then in the discussion that roughly $1.5 million, they would look, instead of using it to pay for this bypass that was just going to get ripped out, they would give that to us to help reconstruct or do other road work on that to improve that road, and then dust control and other things during the construction. So that's something we are meeting with local residents at the Moravian Church out kind of in that area tomorrow night at 7. Hopefully we'll see what kind of use that. It's really the DOT's project. They're looking at probably around 800 vehicles a day, but I think it'll vary depending on other activities. And some people that take that road regularly will probably find alternate routes like most people do. So, but at the same time, it's going to be a significant increase from the 100 vehicles a day that some of those roads take right now.
Bring that up. Anyone else? Any other business? Then we will adjourn. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.